want to point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I want to hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 462nd edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and the amazing Tom Fennell over here.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. Tom wasn't in the flesh well, he was in the flesh. He just didn't happen to be in the flesh here last week.
Right. It's a good explanation.
Yeah. Okay. So this is all stuff that I've gathered doing searches through the news on a day-to-day basis about doing searches for energy and climate change and sometimes a few other things. And they get accumulated at my blog.
So this is the best of the blog.
This is the best of the blog. geoharvey.com. And if you want to see the articles that we refer to, you can go there and click on the calendar for the date and then look for it, or somewhere down that way. Down that way is a link that you can click on that'll take you to the site that Tom and I used to put this together, or you can download the file.
I was just going to mention that some of these things are worth looking at. They're in depth. I mean, we could spend the whole hour just talking about one of them sometimes. You know, there's a couple there that are almost mandatory.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you want to get going?
Well, we might as well. We got a picture of a very smiling guy here.
Smiling guy.
I don't think he's ever smiled.
I'll bet he has.
I've never seen him smile.
Well,
for those who don't know, that's Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, I think he's the richest man on Earth.
I think he is. Yeah. I think he is.
And that
at least as far as they're admitting.
Yeah,
I'm sure the Rothschilds are richer, but they don't talk about it much.
I think Vladimir Putin might be richer. I've seen him.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But I wonder about him and his situation now. Because I don't think I'd want to be Vladimir Putin right now.
Well, he's doing some screwy things, you know, and he's going to have to be taken out one way or another.
Well,
either that or we're going to war.
The thing that I read was that he's hiding out in a bunker, and he's afraid that his own people are going to assassinate him.
I read that too. Yeah.
And you know that thing that they have in the news about that 40-mile long convoy of tanks and trucks and artillery? That's been stuck for
that one.
It's been stuck for a week.
Stuck?
It's been stuck for a week.
40-mile long convoy.
40-mile long convoy, and the tanks.
That's talk about traffic jams.
The tanks can't shut off because if they do, they can't heat themselves, and the people in them could freeze to death. I mean,
can you say carbon monoxide poisoning?
Oh, man. And, you know, I'll bet you that the reason why that thing is stuck is because there's bad logistics.
Uh-huh.
That they don't have enough fuel or something like that.
Well, crazy stuff is happening over there. I hope
crazy
it
stuff
stops happening soon.
And on top of everything else, we're almost to spring. And what happens in the Ukraine when spring comes?
The snow melts.
It all becomes boggy.
Yeah.
Those tanks are going to be useless.
Yeah. Crazy.
We have a picture of a tank later on, and it's pretty impressive.
Let's look at Elon Musk.
Okay, we're talking about Elon Musk here.
Yeah, there he is.
From Clean Technica.
Smiling as usual.
Smiling as usual. Okay.
Elon Musk's taxes were just about enough to cover GM's bailout.
Yeah, you remember GM's bailout?
Well, yeah, G.W. Bush.
Yes.
Bailed out the automakers in December of 2008.
Yeah.
And it was very controversial at the time.
It was, but they survived. Earlier this century, the U.S. government bailed out GM. Last December, the Treasury Department sold the last remaining shares it had acquired from that bailout, and Reuters reported that it lost $11.2 billion in the process. But in 2021, Elon Musk paid over $11 billion in taxes. Who says that the rich don't pay taxes?
Well, to a great degree, they don't.
I know that, but Elon Musk does.
Yeah.
You suppose we should
Well,
thank him?
he does pay taxes. And in 2017, he actually overpaid. So he doesn't owe anything for 2018.
That's why he paid zero. I remember in 2018 people complaining that Elon Musk paid no taxes for.
Well, because he paid him the year before.
Yeah, well, people will complain about anything. But last year, he made enough money that this year he paid $11 billion in taxes. A little over, actually. Are we done?
I think we are.
Okay, we have a
picture of some nice picture of some garbage here.
Yeah, well, you know, what can you say? Was that me that you were calling garbage? CNN, what do you got for a title, Tom?
UN agrees to create the world's first ever plastics pollution treaty in a blow to big oil.
Yeah. The UN approved an agreement to create the world's first global plastic pollution treaty, describing it as the most significant environmental deal since the 2015 Paris Climate Accord. Member states agreed on the outline of the pact to rein in soaring plastic pollution.
Well, plastic pollution is an environmental crisis that extends from ocean trenches to mountaintops, and it has grown into an epidemic.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're talking about the Great East and West Pacific garbage patches, which I think we've mentioned on the show. And there are two more areas, one in the South Pacific and the other in the North Atlantic, where they got these huge circulating patches of garbage.
They're called gyres.
Now, I don't know if we said we did this on a show or I read about it elsewhere, but somebody's created a plastic recovery boat.
Yeah, we talked about that.
We talked about that, which goes in there and it picks up
the
plastic and it sorts it automatically and drops it in bins. It was a pretty clever thing.
Pretty clever.
Well, any treaty that puts restrictions on plastic production would impact oil and chemical companies that make the raw plastic.
Yeah.
As well as consumer goods giants that sell thousands of products in single-use packaging. And that's got to stop.
As the oil industry has been facing the fact that they're going to have declining sales as people try to stop climate change, one of the hopes they've had is that they could make more plastic. And this is a very bad blow, very heavy blow for the oil industry, and in particular for the Russians.
For the Russians, huh?
Well, two-thirds of their foreign trade is oil and gas.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit of coal, but
so they're selling the oil.
If nobody's buying the oil, they're in trouble, deep trouble. And as a matter of fact, they're in deep trouble. But
they're already in deep trouble.
Already in deep trouble. The Russian government has warned that they might default on their bonds.
I read that last night.
This is
scary.
It's scary to anybody who owns bonds.
Worldwide problem.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking maybe I should go out and buy some of those bonds so I could have them in a bond collection.
Well, let's take a look at another little car here.
Another little car. There it is.
There it is. That's the latest Jeep.
That's the latest Jeep. And it doesn't have a grill.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How can you have a Jeep without a grill? It was always a trademark.
Yeah. Okay, this is from Clean Technica. What do you got for a title?
The all-new Jeep, Chrysler, and Ram products will be electric from 2026. That's a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
But read what they're going to say.
The big news from Stellantis, which is earlier.
That's the name of the company now.
Yeah, it used to be called Chrysler. Big press conference wasn't really the first ever all-new, all-electric Jeep model. It was the unsaid statistic that every new Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, and Ram truck offering will be available as a battery electric model from 2026.
Well, this does not mean that the company will offer only battery electric models from that date. It means they are available.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you can buy any one of these cars. If you want it electric, you can get it electric.
And in 2026, if you want to go out and buy a car, one of these pickup trucks or whatever it is that you're talking about, you can get it as a vehicle that needs a lot of maintenance, costs a lot of money, smokes, pollutes, and so forth, and pay extra for it. Or you can get a more powerful vehicle that doesn't make any noise and it's very inexpensive to run. And I'm being just a tiny bit facetious there.
Well, let's look at the next picture coming
Okay, this
up.
is Friday, March 4th, and we have
here we got a couple of reactors.
2 reactors out of 6.
And I know we've seen these reactors before, because last week it was a string of those things.
There were
There's 6 in
of
a
them.
row.
Yeah, 6 in a row.
And
6
that's,
reactors.
if I can pronounce it, that's Zaporizhzhia.
I actually looked online.
Did you?
Yeah.
Good. How is it supposed to be pronounced?
Zaporizhzhia.
Zaporizhzhia.
It's
That's
the
close.
ZH is.
ZH.
It doesn't mean that you have to pronounce ZH twice. It's kind of like there's a city in Canada called Banff.
Yeah, Banff. I've been to Banff. I have.
Well, there used to be a show called it was about U.S. cavalry. It was a F Troop.
Yeah.
It was a comedy show about it was a comedy western about cavalry. And there was a guy walking around one day talking about Banff. Well, this is Zaporizhzhia, not Zaporizhzhia. But
well, it's talking about the Ukraine conflict.
yes.
And it's saying that shares fall after a nuclear plant attack.
Yep. And this is from the BBC. Share prices, that's stock market shares.
Stock market.
Fell after a fire broke out at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant in Ukraine after Russian troops shelled it. London's FTSE 100 share index was down 0.6%. The Nikkei index in Japan closed down 2.2%. Some investor concerns were eased after officials said the plant's safety was, quote, secured, end quote.
Well, the cost of gas in Europe and the UK, I always thought UK was in Europe, but I guess it's not.
Well, the UK used to be part of the European Union, but it's not anymore.
Right.
And if, people in England would say, no, we're not in Europe. That's across the other side of the channel.
Well, in any case, the cost of gas has hit record levels
Yes.
as fears persist that Russian supplies could be reduced or interfered with. I mean, some crazy stuff going on over there.
Absolute insanity.
Absolutely.
Absolute insanity. I think that Vladimir Putin has overplayed his hand.
I think he has.
Yeah, it's like he's got 2 3s and he's playing it like it's a royal flush. And, I think he's been bluffing people. Unfortunately, I don't think his position is strong.
It's not.
But that doesn't mean that he isn't dangerous.
Well, he's a dangerous man.
He's a dangerous man.
And I think he knows it, which makes him more dangerous.
And he's got nuclear bombs, and you don't want to abuse those. But he went so far overboard when he did this.
One of the problems with Russia is its 2 largest oil and gas producers are government owned.
Okay.
And so you buy Russian gas, Russian oil. It's going right into the Russian government.
Yeah. But he put together what's called a war chest, which is funding that he could depend on for this war. And you know where he put it? In European banks.
He got it out of Russia.
And then he's going to the Europeans and saying, if you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to cut off your gas.
You won't play by my rules. I'm going to take my football and go home.
That's right. And they're saying, you do what we tell you to do, or we're going to stop buying your gas.
That could hurt.
Yeah, his position in terms of gas and oil and things like that is nowhere near as powerful as theirs. They need him. He needs them a lot more than they need him.
I hear you.
So anyway,
well, let's look at a bunch of funny-looking structures here. What are they?
I don't know.
Let's take a quick look at them. Let's try to figure it out.
Let's do that.
Look like wind towers to me.
You sure? What are those things at the bottom of them? How do they balance on those things at the bottom?
I think they're attached to the floor.
Oh, do you? Okay. All right. This is from Renews.
Victoria, and that's a state, by the way,
in Australia,
sets a 9-gigawatt offshore wind goal. That's a lot.
It is. The Australian state of Victoria plans to have 9 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity installed on its coast by 2040. The Labor government of the state has published the, quote, this is a title, Victorian Offshore Wind Policy Directions paper, which also set interim targets of 2 gigawatts by 2032. That's within 10 years.
Gigawatts is bigawatts, baby.
Yeah. 4 gigawatts by 2035. I think they're going to be able to exceed those
Well,
speeds.
the article says that Victoria has the potential to support 13 gigawatts by 2050.
Okay.
And 3 planned major offshore proposals, they're already planned,
Yeah.
together would generate 5 gigawatts.
So
they're on their way.
2 gigawatts by 2032 sounds really modest.
Oh, yeah, it's quite possible, quite doable.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's move along here.
Let's move along. We've got a pair of happy people. And by the way,
They look kind of happy, don't they?
that 22 on the right on that monitor readout,
Yeah,
that I believe is
it's
the
72 degrees.
yeah. It's the temperature in Celsius.
Yeah. Well, that's that. In case you're wondering, is Nate the house whisperer, whatever that means. The climate math of home heating electrification.
This came from Clean Technica. UC Davis researchers published a study in Energy Policy showing that a typical U.S. home can cut its heating-related climate pollution by 45 to 72% by swapping out a gas-fired furnace. That's, gas is what they always said was clean.
Yep. Well, it was the cleanest thing we had at the time.
Well, it isn't anymore.
Right.
Swap that out for an efficient all-electric heat pump, and that's true right now, today, in every region of the country.
And by the way, that heat pump will give you the option of air conditioning as well.
Oh, of course. That's what heat pumps do. And
So it's interesting because as I was writing this, I got WVPR
yeah,
on the radio. And this is exactly what they're talking about. They put it a different way. You got to save a lot of money.
yeah. For anybody who doesn't know, an air conditioner is a heat pump.
Absolutely.
And
So is a
what-
refrigerator.
Yeah, but the air conditioner takes the heat in your room
Out
and
of,
it pushes it out
out the window.
out the window
So it works
into an
backwards.
area that's hotter. So you're delivering more heat into an
You're
area
making
that's
the
hotter.
earth hotter.
You're making
when
the
you're
earth
cooler.
hotter. If you switch the direction of the flow, you're taking the heat out of the cold air that's outside and pushing it into the room that you're in
Yeah.
to make the room warmer. Both of those work is within parameters,
Well, there is heat in air at any temperature.
That's true.
Even when you get way below zero, there's still heat in that air.
Yep.
Until you get to absolute zero, which...
In which case there's no air.
Well, some new power plants are going to need to be built to serve these new electrical loads.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, but the effect diminishes with a fast-growing share of renewable energy sources,
Right.
which only make sense because you're not paying for the fuel.
Yeah.
So let's move along here.
We're up to
Saturday, March 5th, and we
March
got this
5th.
crazy-looking tank here.
This is a Russian tank, and I want to draw your attention to the muzzle of that cannon. That is a 4.9-inch gun. It's
Okay, 5 inches.
yeah, it's
It's a big gun.
125 millimeter. During the Second World War, the Germans had a tank called the Tiger, which had an 88 millimeter cannon. I think that's what it was, and it was just fearsome because it would blow anything else on the on the countryside away. Because
I bet, yeah.
this thing is gigantic compared to that.
Well, when I was on a destroyer, the
Yeah.
biggest guns we had on the ship were 5 inch.
5-inch guns, which is pretty close to the size of this thing.
Well, 4.9, I'll give you.
Yeah. So this is from CNN.
Turn down the heat to stop Putin? Europe wrestles with its Russian gas addiction.
You may not think much about where the energy that heats your home comes from, let alone where the money you pay for it goes. For many Europeans, there's a good chance that the money is flowing into the Russian state, much of it into Putin's war chest.
Well, Russia's 2 largest oil and gas producers, which are Rosneft and Gazprom, by the way, are Russian state-owned companies.
Yeah.
So if you buy these things from Russia, the government gets the money.
Yep. And what is the government doing now?
Well, Putin is taking money from the Europeans and he's turning this into aggression.
But it's not enough. He doesn't have enough money.
I don't think so. He's painted himself into a corner, really.
He has painted himself into a corner. The Russian government has already said, it wasn't Putin, but it was somebody, that they might default on their bonds. And when a country defaults on its bonds,
I think we're going to talk about that.
That is a disaster.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Europe can buy oil from elsewhere. Replacing Russian gas is more difficult. But turning the heat down can save huge amounts.
And how hard is it to turn the heat down? For a lot of people, they can't do it because they don't have access to their thermostats, and people in apartments. But
I got access to my thermostat.
Yeah, but I know that there are landlords in Brattleboro who don't allow allow that. But the thing is, we're back to, people are going to say, oh no, not that, because Jimmy Carter said it and they made fun of it. But wear a sweater. I mean, wearing a sweater is going to be putting pressure on Vladimir Putin to get out of the Ukraine. So do you think people will do that? I think they will. We're
going to talk about that a little bit more, I think.
Well, our next
we got
article
a picture coming up here.
Is from Clean Technica.
Nice paint job.
That wouldn't be my first choice of a paint job.
Well, that's a Sony test car.
Yes.
And that's what it says anyhow.
Yes.
And it says Honda and Sony. This is interesting. Honda and Sony will build electric cars together. Because they're in two different businesses and they match.
But they work together here. Honda and Sony signed a memorandum of understanding to form a new company to manufacture electric cars together. The Verge, which is a publication, reports this. The first cars are to go on sale in 2025, which is pretty quick, given that new car design and production typically takes 5 to 7 years.
Well, a company will handle, this new company is going to handle the vehicle's design, development, and sales.
Yes.
But Honda's going to build the cars.
Yes.
Okay, at least at first. And the first cars from the as yet unnamed company are expected to go on sale in 2025.
Right.
So that's coming up pretty quickly.
It is, absolutely.
Let's move along here.
We have an item here
Nice picture.
From CNN, and that is Lake Powell, the Lake Powell Dam.
Now, I've been in one very much like this that is not Lake Powell. It's another one.
Okay.
It's I can't think of the name of it, but it's almost identical to this.
Okay. This lake, as I recall, is
That's
on
the Colorado River.
Yeah, it's as the Colorado River is going into the Grand Canyon, they blocked off part of the Grand Canyon essentially to build this, as I recall. Yeah. So what do you got for a title? This is from CNN.
Well, let's see what I got. Lake Powell is about to drop below a critical level never reached before as the drought rages on.
Man. Lake Powell, the country's second largest reservoir, is projected to dip past a critical threshold, threatening water supplies and putting a key source of hydropower generation at heightened risk of being forced offline as the drought continues.
I remember the name of the other lake. It's Lake Mead.
Oh, yeah, Lake Mead.
I've been to Lake Mead, and I've been to the dam on Lake Mead. And when I was there, it was full of water.
Yeah.
And it's dangerously low now.
Yeah, if you go back to the picture here,
I can do that.
This shows the bathtub ring.
Oh, it's much lower than that now.
I know it is, but you can see that as you go down toward the water in this thing, the walls of the canyon are white, and the reason is because that has recently been underwater.
Right, correct. Well, water flowing down the Colorado River fills these lakes, Powell and Mead, and they're part of a river system serving more than 40 million people. Mm-hmm. So this is significantly important.
And preventing Mexicans from getting their water.
Well, there's a controversy about that too, yes. Yeah. And a lot of this oil is being stolen by the vegetable growers in the Imperial Valley. They're not even entitled to it. They're just stealing it.
Yeah, and this is a problem. The problem is stealing the water and Mexicans not getting water from the Colorado River and so forth.
Well, there's another problem too. They're getting too low to generate hydro.
Yeah, but that problem goes back. I mean, I can remember my father explaining that to me when I was probably in second grade.
Uh-huh.
And how the Mexicans were furious at us because they had farmland down there that can't be farmed because they don't have any water.
Because somebody's stealing the water.
Yeah.
Well, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation is currently anticipating water levels in Lake Powell to reach 25% of capacity. It's only 2 feet away from the critical level.
Oh, man.
Okay, so there's problems down there, and they're not going to be easily solved.
No.
I mean, they do have a way of solving it, and that's releasing water upstream from other dams. But then what do the people do that are taking...
Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we got Sunday, March 6th coming up here, and this looks very familiar here. Let's get this one here.
Does that look like maybe something in Vermont?
Well, it's awful close.
It's actually in
it looks very much like the one in...
there's a superhighway on that. I hadn't seen that before.
Well, that's Interstate 90.
Yeah. Wow.
That's Rotterdam, New York, not Rotterdam, Holland.
Yeah, I think that's probably correct.
Oh, it is correct.
If it were Rotterdam, Holland, it wouldn't have those gigantic mountains that are in the background.
Well, that's Rotterdam, New York is a suburb of Schenectady.
Yes. Okay, and this is from the Daily Gazette.
Schenectady-based DSD on a sharp growth path as green energy expands.
Less than 3 years after its creation, GE spin-off DSD Renewables has nearly tripled its workforce as it adds solar electricity to the power grid and to its customers' facilities. DSD's headquarters at Mohawk Harbor hosts a small part of its nearly 170 employees.
Well, DSD was created by GE in 2012 as GE Solar. They sold it to a company called BlackRock, and they changed the name to Distributed Solar Development, which is what DSD stands for.
Yeah.
They have since renamed it to DSD Renewables, and they got an interesting business model. It uses sunlight electricity generated on client sites. Okay, so you come up with the land. They build the solar system.
Yeah.
And then you buy the power from them at less than the utility would charge. Hey, there's big bucks here. They're talking about the one in Schenectady saving $800,000 a year.
For the city?
For the county.
For the
county and the villages involved.
Right. Okay.
Well, Schenectady County Solar Energy, this is it, Solar Energy Consortium in Rotterdam, which is that picture. That's what we're looking at. Well, meets the electrical needs of the town, city, and county governments entirely.
Yeah. With
local power, worth around $800,000 a year.
Okay. So, we've got a new story and new
let's take a look at the map there. I'm going to leave that map up there for a little while.
I think that's a good idea.
So they can look at, study the map where the gas prices are. Our gas prices are relatively high.
Yeah, but nowhere near as high as they are in California.
New York and Maine.
I read.
It's almost $5 a gallon in California.
I read that in some stations it's over $6.
Over $6. Wow. So you're ahead of me on one.
Yeah. Anyway, this is from Clean Technica. So what do you have for a title?
Well, let's see if I can figure that one out. Shock. Awe. Americans willing to pay higher gas prices to defeat Putin.
Yeah.
That's what we were just talking about.
I think we were. Americans want low energy prices, but in a poll conducted last week by Reuters, 80% of respondents, including solid majorities of Republicans and Democrats, said they support the idea of not importing any oil from Russia, even if that leads to higher gas prices at the pump.
Well, I got a little quick takeaway here. Americans historically have favored low energy prices, even though those prices are the result of taxpayer subsidies. However, Americans say they're willing to pay more at the pump to punish Putin.
Yeah.
Okay. How long will this bipartisan area of good feeling era of good feeling last?
Oh,
Well, gas prices are rising.
yes.
At the time I read this, it was $3.78 a gallon.
Okay.
Okay, this could become $4.08 a gallon soon. Gas could hit $5 a gallon in some U.S. cities by the end of this month, and you said they've exceeded that.
In parts of California, that's what I read. Yeah.
Well, moral outrage could be overwhelmed by gas price fury at a heartbeat.
In other words, it's not exactly a stable approval.
Not exactly.
Yeah.
Not exactly. Well, let's take a look at this picture here. This is a nice picture coming up.
Yeah, this
Pretty
is
little place. Huh?
Montenegro. I wonder how many people know where Montenegro is.
Well, it's a small country in southeastern Europe, located on the Adriatic Sea opposite Italy. And it's small.
I would bet that most people in the United States don't know where the Adriatic Sea is.
Well, it's to the right of Italy.
It's to the
It's
right.
a pretty big sea, too.
Unless you happen to be in Italy facing south, in which case it's to the left. It's actually a pretty good size. But, you know, looking at that, it almost looks like fjord.
It does. I was thinking exactly that.
And
Well, Montenegro's a small place. It's basically just a city.
it's a county-sized country.
A county size.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it has a really interesting. It has a really interesting history.
Does it?
Oh, it just had this war that they were going on with the Ottoman Empire that seemed like it was going on forever, and they were fighting various wars for independence. I think for close to 500 years.
Persistent, aren't they?
Yeah, they're persistent. And one thing that I happen to know is that 150 years ago, there was a legal requirement that every man in Montenegro carry a gun at all times.
Wow.
And of course, this you got to remember.
Shoot out at the OK Corral.
No, they were worried about the Ottoman Empire invading, and they wanted to be. These guns that they had were all revolvers, and they were the biggest military revolvers ever made.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, the whole thing reminds me of a law in Vermont that I think is actually still in the books. It says that when you go to church, you must bring your musket with you.
I left my musket at home.
Yeah. Well, and the reason was because they didn't want everybody in the town to be disarmed on Sunday morning when the Indians
Because they're going
attacked.
to church, right?
Yeah. So that was the law. I don't know that it is still the law, but it was.
Well, let's move along here.
Well, are we ready to move along? I don't think so.
Okay.
This was Balkan Green Energy News talking. What do you got for a title?
Oh, Montenegro to introduce renewable energy auctions. It's not all that interesting.
Not all that interesting, but the picture's nice. Why don't you put it back
I'm going to
up?
put the picture back up. It is nice.
The Ministry of it looks cool. The Ministry of Capital Investments of Montenegro announced that it will conduct auctions to raise the share of solar power plants and wind farms in the country's energy mix. To do this, it will have technical support from the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development. Now, if you look at that picture...
The ministry believes that the competitive bidding would enable the installation of new production facilities at competitive prices.
If you look at that picture, you can see why it was that the Turks would not be able to take over Montenegro easily.
No, it looks like they could defend that fairly well.
Fairly easily. Mountainous areas are pretty easy to defend. Okay, let's go on to the next one.
Well, we got an interesting picture of a Shell station.
A Shell station. Why are we looking at a Shell station?
Well, it says, did Shell change its mind about Russia?
They did something that wasn't very approved of by all people. This is from Clean Technica. Did Shell Oil Company change its mind about Russia? Well, it's complicated, at least according to Shell. Shell is one of 3 oil companies cutting its ties with Russia, but it bought 100,000 metric tons of Russia's Urals crude from a commodity dealer at $28.50 a barrel below the price of Brent crude.
That's about a 25% discount. That's significant.
That's significant. And the thing that's really interesting here...
Well, they said they were going to do one thing, and then they go out and do this.
Well, they said they weren't going to, deal with Russia.
And they didn't. They bought it from an intermediate.
They bought it from an intermediate who I think probably had that already.
He did. He had been trying to sell it. He couldn't.
That's why it was $28.50 a barrel lower.
He wanted to get it out of his inventory.
He wanted to get it out of his inventory, and he tried from one place to another to get rid of 100,000 metric tons of oil. Are you kidding me?
That's more than I use in a month.
Yeah. Okay, should we go on?
Well, let's say Shell announced that it was cutting its ties with Russian state-owned energy giant Gazprom as a result of Russia's war with Ukraine.
Yep.
Perhaps that shock quickly wore off.
I don't know.
Shell has ended its self-imposed embargo and scored a sweet deal on Russian oil at the largest discount on record.
Yeah.
But he didn't buy it from Gazprom. He bought it from a commodity trader.
That's right.
So the guy was stuck with it.
Yes. Okay, our next item is from CNN, and we have a picture here.
Got a picture coming up here.
That is I think that's
offshore platform.
It's an offshore oil and gas platform.
Yes, it is. Yep, they're drilling.
There are platforms that look a lot like that are associated with wind farms, but this is not that.
Well, stocks sink while oil soars after U.S. and allies consider banning Russian oil. They're talking about it.
Yeah. Should we give the teaser that they banned it? Okay.
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
Yeah, well, they said they were going to cut it by 66%. Stocks are tumbling Monday as oil prices are soaring to the highest level in 13 months, raising fears about a further spike in inflation that could damage the global economy. Brent crude also rose to the highest level since 2008, up 8% to $127.66 a barrel.
Sounds like a lot.
It's a lot.
Well, oil prices surged after the Secretary of State said the U.S. is working with its allies in Europe to look into the possibility of banning Russian oil imports. And you told me they just did.
Yeah, Russia is, I think Putin, but certainly the Russians are complaining that the United States is waging economic war against them. They say this is not
Well, what has he been doing?
Man.
Well, Russian crude accounts for about a quarter of all oil imports into the EU.
Yeah, but almost nothing into the United States.
No, we got our own oil.
Yeah.
Elevated oil prices may pose a threat to corporate profits and consumer spending.
Absolutely. Okay, our next item is from the New Civil Engineer.
And we get some funny looking things here.
It's not from that. What did I do?
There we go.
I went one too far.
That's what we're supposed to be
This is from...
Is that what are they wind turbines? Is that what they are?
I think they're party noisemakers.
They're pretty big ones.
Yes, they are. King Kong is the one who waves those around. New Civil Engineer.
UK renewable energy products should be accelerated to mitigate the impact of Ukraine conflict.
Yeah, well, this is something that's been repeated.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's been repeated by a lot of people. Energy experts called for the UK to press on with its push to roll out renewables, with a need to bolster energy security highlighted by the impact of Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. EU and UK gas prices have now risen to record highs.
Well, a push to roll out renewables is a good idea, no matter what.
I absolutely agree. But what's happened here, I think, is that Putin was afraid of the push for renewables because it was cutting his income.
Absolutely.
So what does he do? He starts a war. And he just hasn't paid any attention to the fact that he could cut off the gas to the Europeans, but they're probably going to survive. If the Europeans...
Well, he's not the only source.
Yeah, that's right. But if he cuts off the gas to the Europeans, he's cutting off the money to his own pocket. Where's the sense in that?
Maybe he didn't think that heavily.
What's that?
Maybe he didn't think that deeply.
I think, honestly, Tom, I think he thought the Europeans are lazy and unwilling to give up their luxuries, their luxurious lifestyle. We can extract all kinds of stuff from them and they'll just put up with it. And he didn't realize that when you start shooting in hospitals, people get upset.
I would think. Well, the European Union is much more reliant than the United States on Russia.
On Russia, yeah.
So that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Well, let's move along here to Tuesday. March the 8th, and we got a funny
what it
picture
is.
there
This is
of
from
the Amazon.
Yeah, and you can see that there is a muddy river and a relatively clear river running
It is
together.
interesting where they're coming together.
They do that, in the Mississippi River has places that do that also.
They call that the confluence.
Confluence, that's right. And this is from CNN.
Amazon near tipping point of shifting from rainforest to savanna.
This is scary.
That's not the company Amazon, that's the river Amazon.
Yeah, and this is scary.
It is.
The Amazon rainforest may be nearing a critical tipping point that could see the biologically rich and diverse ecosystem transformed into a grassy savanna. The fate of the rainforest is crucial to the health of the planet for several reasons.
Say that again, because that's important.
Which
That sentence,
the fate of the rainforest is crucial to the health of the planet for a number of reasons. This is that rainforest. If you think about it, all of the trees in there are giving off water into the atmosphere.
Well, they're a carbon sink.
They're
a water sink.
Yeah. And
they're very important.
Very important in terms of the world weather. And
I was just going to say, if they turn into a savanna, the whole world's weather is going to change.
Yeah. Well, I guess the whole world's weather is going to change, and it's hard to see what that is going to do. I'm sure that there's scientists who would be able to tell you what their models say.
If we commit to losing the Amazon rainforest, then we get a significant feedback to global climate change.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Should we go on?
I think we should.
Okay.
I mean, there's more there, but let's look at a ship for a second here.
Yes, that's right.
We've seen that little ship before.
We've seen things like it, certainly. I can tell you that.
Very much like it. Well, what's going on here is the big ship is too big to fall into the harbors. So that little ship brings stuff from the big ship to the harbors.
Well, I think what they're doing here is the little ship is delivering sections of pipeline, and the big.
Well, this is an old picture, and they were building the
Nord Stream 1,
and that was 10 years ago.
Yes, I know. Yeah. Okay, this is from BBC.
War in Ukraine. Russia says it may cut gas supplies if the oil ban goes ahead.
Russia has said that it may close its main gas pipeline to Germany if the West goes ahead with a ban on Russian oil. Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak said a, quote, rejection of Russian oil would lead to catastrophic consequences for the global market, end quote. And I got to say,
prices could more than double.
If we don't reject Russian oil, it's going to result in catastrophic consequences to the planet through climate change.
Well, you got a point. No matter what, we're going to have catastrophic
we're going to have something.
Well, the EU gets 40% of its gas and 30% of its oil from Russia.
Yeah.
And it has no easy substitutes if supplies are disrupted.
Yep.
Okay, it would be impossible to quickly find a replacement for Russian oil on a European market.
But the key word there is quickly.
Quickly, yes, exactly.
And they're going to have to tighten their belts for this coming winter probably, and live in cooler apartments and houses, and maybe
Germany could switch from gas back to coal, but
they don't want
it goes against their announced ambitions to get rid of coal.
That's true, but they announced those ambitions without a war going on, and they could. It's easy to see that they could step back and do this.
They look at reality.
And the other thing is they've doubled the speed for their bringing renewable energy online,
which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, Russia is still making huge sums from its sales of gas and oil to Europe every day.
Yeah.
Helping to fund its war.
Yeah.
Okay. Moscow has everything to gain from exploiting traders' nerves to push up energy prices.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're doing that on purpose.
Oh, yeah. But a great deal to lose if it were to carry out that threat.
Oh, yeah. They will lose. I mean, basically, we said they were on the verge of defaulting on their loans.
I think we're going to talk about that again, aren't we?
We are. And if they carry this threat out, I don't see where they're going to get the money from to run anything, as a matter of fact, let alone a war in the Ukraine. I think that Putin has really bit off more than he can chew here. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, we got an interesting picture coming up.
We do indeed.
Click it up. Click it on there if I can. That's in Virginia.
Yeah.
And it's a site of a proposed solar farm.
Yeah.
And so the title says that the Nature Conservancy will build solar farms at abandoned coal mines in Virginia.
Yep.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
This is from Clean Technica.
That makes a lot of sense.
If you look
to
at that
me.
picture, you'll notice that there is an area on there.
Well, that dark part.
Kind of in
right in the middle.
Well, there's an area slightly up and to the right of that, which is in
way in the
sunshine.
background.
It's in sunshine. And that, because there's
three of them out there back there, isn't there?
And
they're all abandoned mines.
Those are abandoned mines. And what are you going to do?
Mountaintop mines.
You can't plow the land and grow crops on these things. The soil is only about an inch deep, you know.
It'd be hard to get a tractor up there anyhow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and all they are just ugly places where...
Well, it was mountaintop removal. They took the easy way out. They knocked the top of the mountain, dumped it into the river, and took the coal and went on their way.
That's right. And now
they're leaving these scars, really.
Yeah, but they're very stable scars that you can put solar.
Well, that's interesting. They're perfect for putting solar.
Yeah.
You know, I think I mentioned this on a show. I was in Cincinnati one time. I think it was Cincinnati. And I was standing in the parking lot outside the motel, and I'm looking out there at the mountains, and they're all flat. And I said to my companion there, my friend, I didn't know they had a whole bunch of buttes here in Ohio. And he said, those are not buttes. That's mountaintops. They cut the top off the mountains.
Yeah, I don't think I read the synopsis for this.
Well, why don't you read it?
In 2019, Nature Conservatory acquired 253,000 acres in Central Appalachian Mountains to create what it calls the Cumberland Forest Project. The forest includes several mountaintop removal mines that were abandoned, and some of those, in fact, I think the article said 6 of them were going to become solar farms.
Well, if it makes sense for those 6 to do it, they're going to do it to all of them, because it seems to me that it makes sense. They're flat. They're there.
Yeah. And there's not much else you can do with them. It's very much like...
Oh, nothing. There's nothing else.
It's very much like...
You can't grow anything up there because the soil is too thin.
Yeah. It's just, they had flat rock and they trucked in a few truckloads of soil and spread it around, planted grass and trees actually, but the trees are stunted because they can't put their roots down.
There's not much...
Okay, we are up to Wednesday.
There's a couple of takeaways here.
Oh, okay, good.
Renewables are the key to a sustainable future.
You think?
That's what it says. Instead of torturing the earth to extract coal, oil, and gas that leaves billions of tons of carbon dioxide and methane in their wake, solar and wind farms produce clean electricity power directly and indirectly from the sun.
Yes.
There are no emissions from renewable energy, and a fuel, which is sunlight, is free and inexhaustible. And you can't beat that. I mean, people are going to look back and say, they used to pay for fuel.
Yeah. Okay, we are up to Wednesday, the 9th of March.
Well, there's a quick one here. The age of thermal is past.
I believe it.
Renewables are the future.
I believe that.
Absolutely true.
Absolutely.
Well, we're on the last day here, Wednesday, March 9th.
Yeah, we're a little ahead of schedule, so we can operate at a slower than usual pace.
Good. Let's see if I can't get this picture up here.
This is wind turbines.
Come on, you.
Wind turbines in twilight. What did you do with your poor cursor?
I can't find my cursor. Oh, come on, cursor. Where the hell did you go? It's not this one.
No, this is the one you want.
That's the one you want. Yeah. No wonder I can't. There we go.
There you go.
There we go. And we got a picture here that is entitled
Wind Turbines.
Wind Turbines. How clever. And it says that Europe plans to reduce Russian gas imports by 66% this year. This year.
Oh my gosh, do you know what that's going to do to poor Vladimir?
Yeah, he didn't count on that.
I don't think he counted on that. He thought the Europeans were a bunch of cushy little toads who would prefer their easy lifestyles, and he just couldn't picture they're tightening their belt. Europe is planning to reduce consumption of Russian natural gas this year as it prepares for a complete break with its single biggest energy supplier over the war in the Ukraine. EU officials outlined a plan to achieve energy independence from Moscow well before 2030. And this is from CNN. But
the EU is starting by reducing the demand for Russian natural gas by 2/3 this year, right now. The Biden administration has announced an outright ban on all Russian oil.
Yeah, which is not really a big deal for us because
we don't buy very much of it.
We buy very little Russian oil or gas.
Well, natural gas and coal imports too.
Yes.
And the UK government said it will phase out Russian oil imports by the end of 2022, which is coming up real quick.
That's by the end of the year.
Absolutely.
I mean, this and what we've got out of that is, well, should we go on to the next article?
Yeah, we got a picture here of something that's going to be a rare commodity, I think.
Although I think it'll be easy to buy these on eBay as collector items.
Collector's items.
Yeah.
That's all they're going to be worth.
This is from the BBC.
Well, there's a picture there, and it's Russian money.
Yep.
And that's what it says, Russian currency.
Yep.
And it says, the war in Ukraine. Fitch Ratings warns the Russian bond default is imminent.
Yes.
That is scary.
Well, the Russian government has said that it might default.
And it looks like it will.
And it looks like it will. Fitch Ratings has warned Russia is likely to soon default on its debts as it downgraded the country's bonds further into junk territory, almost to the bottom grade. The warning came after the EU, US, and UK all said they will reduce or ban imports of Russian oil or gas. The Russians they pulled the rug out from under themselves.
I think they did.
And
it wasn't a magic carpet either.
No, this was not a magic carpet. And I just think that Vladimir Putin grossly underestimated the circumstances. He was reacting, I think, to the idea that the EU was going to reduce what they were buying, and he wanted to, first of all, destabilize the market so the price would go up, so he would continue to profit.
I don't think it worked.
It didn't work. And he, again, I say he was far more dependent on them for money than they were on him for gas and oil.
Yes.
He had
a low rating means that the chances of not getting repaid is considered high.
Yes.
That's a low rating for bonds.
Yes.
So an investor will charge a higher interest rate.
Yes. Which means that Russia can't get bonds now.
They can't. Nobody. Well, Russia's sovereign debt is now considered to be below investment grade or in junk territory.
Yeah.
So people aren't going to be buying Russia's bonds.
And if Russia needs money because it's not getting the money from the Europeans because the Europeans aren't buying their products, or worse yet, because they shut the Europeans off from the market and don't have a market to sell into.
It's also affected the money. The Russian ruble has hit record lows.
They go to market to borrow money, and who's going to loan to them?
Nobody wants to loan money to them. Well, they're not reliable. I wouldn't lend money to a pauper.
Yeah.
He ain't going to get it back.
Well,
dozens of global brands, by the way, including McDonald's, Coca-Cola, and Starbucks have halted business in Russia due to the invasion of Ukraine.
It would be interesting to see how many people have been thrown out of work by this.
That's interesting.
And another thing, too, that I've read about is there are demonstrations all over the Russia against the war.
I read that. Yeah. He doesn't have the support of the Russian people.
Well, he told his people, we're going to go into the Ukraine and we're going to liberate them because they've been taken over by neo-Nazis. And so
there's a part of that is true.
It might be, but only a part.
Yeah.
And they go into areas where people speak Russian, and the people are using that Russian to heap abuse on the soldiers.
Yeah.
And
crazy things.
Russian soldiers were not expecting this.
No.
And I think that Vladimir Putin really, really, really badly overestimated his own ability and underestimated the kind of ability that the Europeans would have to respond.
Well, it looks like there's a strong pressure within Russia to get rid of the guy.
One can hope because it would be nice to think that we can end this war without anybody resorting to nuclear bombs, And
they're not even supposed to have them, for God's sake.
Well, the
do have
Russians do.
Well, I think Ukraine has a few.
It might, but the Russians have the bombs, and they, could, in theory,
one nuclear bomb. We're not talking Hiroshima here. These nuclear bombs are much bigger. Much bigger.
No, actually, the Russians have always maintained that they've got tactical nuclear bombs that they could use.
Which are small.
Yes, they're small enough that a single human being could carry one in some cases, and they're the kind of thing that could be used on the field, and it would have a blast area that would be relatively small. In the case of a neutron bomb, you'd have very little.
That doesn't destroy property. It destroys people.
Yeah, it's not as destructive to property, but it kills everybody.
Kills people. Yep.
Just kills people. And
radiation.
And then the fallout from that is very, very small. So in theory, they might do that, but if they do, they're going to be facing the UK has already told Russia that if they use Russian nuclear bombs, they will get a retaliation which will be equal to or greater than what they used.
Well, I would expect it would be greater then, because that would kind of kill it in the bud.
Yeah, and the thing that I'm hoping
there's crazy stuff going on
is that somebody in Russia is going to say, Vladimir, you may be a murderer and you may be suicidal, but I'm not going to go down with you. And if you give an order to use a nuclear bomb, we're going to take you out.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe we'll just take you out anyway.
This could happen.
It could happen. So I've got some hope that maybe sanity will rear its head again in all of this.
Well, we got another picture coming up.
We do indeed.
The last one we're going to see today.
That's right. And this is from
that is a guy installing a solar panel.
That's right. But this article is only just kind of peripherally about the installation.
It's not about the article, really.
Yeah. What do you have for a title?
Renewable energy. This is important. Renewable energy will save us from dictators whose power comes from fossil fuels.
Yeah, isn't that fun? Vice Admiral Dennis V. McGinn.
Yeah.
Okay.
McGout.
McGout. Yeah. That would be a good first name and last name combination, wouldn't it? McGout. Wrote a piece for The Hill, which is the name of a publication, responding to the Russian invasion of the Ukraine. He argued that renewable energy will save us from dictators powered by fossil fuels and called for the U.S. to up its game on renewables.
Well, this guy McGinn is no slouch there.
That's right.
He was Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Energy, Installations, and Environment during the Obama administration.
Yes.
He was in the Navy for 35 years.
Wow, can you imagine doing that?
He pointed out that Russia's attack on the Ukraine is a clear warning to the U.S. to become energy independent with renewables.
It's a clear warning to everybody.
Absolutely
everybody.
Absolutely.
And by the way, it would be worthwhile saying this. Elon Musk said we need to have more renewables, and we will need in the short term to produce more oil and gas. But he also said we need more nuclear. And the thing that Elon Musk doesn't get is that the Germans cannot just turn on a nuclear power plant tomorrow, or even keep a plant going that is now scheduled to go down in December, because the fuel has to be ordered over a year in advance. So they haven't...
I mean, you don't just buy nuclear fuel off the shelf.
But if you do buy the nuclear fuel, where does it come from?
I don't know.
Russia. So basically, I don't think this, and the Russians could say, you're not going to buy our oil and gas, we're not going to sell you nuclear.
Well, this is a takeaway. In the 21st century, there is no reason why wars should be fought for and fueled by oil and gas anymore.
But they are. This is it.
Yeah.
This is it.
No reason, but they are. Thanks to enormous leaps in technology, with the right policies in place, clean, renewable energy can provide most of our energy needs.
Right.
Absolutely true.
But there's another thing too here, Tom, and that is somebody, I forget who it was in the news, said the Russians had invaded the Ukraine with no provocation. And I got to tell you, Putin thinks there's provocation, and the provocation is renewable energy.
Interesting.
That's my take.
Yeah, it's an interesting take of it.
Yeah. Okay, we are at the limit of our ability to present.
I think we are. I think I'll put us both up here.
Let's do that. And we're asking everybody, or suggesting to everybody, that they have a conspicuously peachy week. How about
Absolutely. Conspicuously peachy.
that? That's right.
You'll come back and see us now, you hear?
Bye-bye.